I'm going to show you how to query the Solo network to fast pass customers through your application experience by letting them skip steps in your process while remaining compliant. So I am a fintech. I was invited by my sponsor bank to join the Solo network. And the Solo network is made up of sponsor bank and fintech programs. It makes it so that if a consumer or a business has completed an onboarding step at any of these programs and the sponsor bank has attested to the steps that were completed, then I, as a fintech onboarding that same customer, I can fast pass them by totally skipping the steps that were done when they meet my policy standards. So this works through a headless API. Nothing in your experience changes except steps are either fully or partially removed from your application. So for a consumer, it means that they skip the selfie check, or they don't have to go to another room to go get their ID in order to complete an application. For a business owner, it's even more profound. They don't have to hunt down an office lease, find their formation docs and upload them. They don't have to find their EIN letter or verify all of their beneficial owners for the third time. It literally skips all of those steps if the network has already done that work and it meets your policy. So how do we know if that's the case? Today, I'm going to show you how to set up a querying policy in Solo, which basically acts as a filter for the results from the network, what a query returns, both the data and the verification artifacts that you need to rely on work that's been done, and the auditability of data throughout the querying process. So the first step is to set up our policy. And today I'm going to be doing this for the KYC certificate. So to use this certificate, I'm just going to provide the first name, the last name for the customer, and a lookup key, typically the last four of their social. And what the query API is going to return back is all of the data that's already been collected with attestations for who has completed these KYC steps, what steps did they do, how did they complete them, when did they complete them, and the evidence associated with their work. So basically, the artifacts that you need to be able to compliantly skip that step. Next, I'm going to set up my querying policy. Now, if I've joined Solo through my sponsor bank, the sponsor bank is going to set up my policy for me for the most part to make sure that it's in line with their CIP and KYC requirements. But if I'm joining Solo directly, I can also set up my own querying policy here. So for this example, I'm going to set up my own querying policy. Here's where I'm going to scope this to a network or a set of product lines. So if I'm a fintech, I may have different departments and product lines that have different requirements for KYC. If I'm a sponsor bank, I may want to roll out this policy to just a certain group of programs or all of my programs at once. I can set that here. So you can actually distinguish between different products or programs, what policy requirements you want for them. Then I'm going to assign it to the KYC certificate and create my policy. Now I'm going to actually configure each individual step that's going to act as my filter for results from the network. It's basically going to say, this is what I do today, and here are the limitations of what I'm willing to accept. So for this policy, I'm just going to set address capture and verification and identity document capture and verification rules. I do want to make sure that address was captured, and I want to do that within the last 90 days. I also want to make sure that it was verified within the last 90 days, and I'm okay with any of these verification methods. Now I'm going to scroll down to document capture. I want to make sure that this was also collected within the last 90 days and reviewed within the last 90 days. I don't want to collect anything that's going to expire within the next 90 days. I do want it to be uploaded, and I'm okay to have either a passport or a driver's license, but I want it to be government issued, of course. Then I'm going to save my policy. So if anyone in the network has done these checks according to the configurations I just sent, that will be returned to me and I can skip those steps. To test this out, I'm going to run a query. Now, this is sandbox data. Obviously, this would be taking place wherever you integrate Solo, which is often your orchestration engine. But the customer would provide their first name, their last name, and the lookup key, the last four of their social. And I'm going to see that these results are filtered through this policy criteria that I just set. Now, what this screen is showing, sometimes you don't have a single institution or fintech that completed all of the KYC steps that are a part of your policy. Fintech A might have done the document capture according to what I need, which I can see here exactly how they did theirs. And Fintech A2 might have done the address verification and capture, which again, I can see exactly how they did it as compared to my policy. So in this scenario, what Solo would do would take the pieces that match your policy from the different members of the network and combine them into a single certificate that fits your policy and your product. So once I submit this query, and this is what's returned. This is where I have that auditable artifact and certificate that is essentially the reliance letter that I'd need for a BSA examiner. So I can see all the furnishers that were involved, and this is a bank level attestation of this work. I can see exactly what was returned as it meets my policy. And of course, you can feed this response anywhere you need, but this is that reliance artifact. Now, all the data and attestations furnished to Solo go through an auditing and grading process. So it's not just that liveness checks happened, so-and-so bank said so you're going to have to believe them. We've audited each workflow and seen it running compared to the configurations that were set by the furnisher. All of the data that is furnished is audited against what the furnisher said happened in their policy, which happens before any certificates are even published. In the next video, we're going to show you what happens when someone furnishes to the network and the auditing and grading process for any new data that's uploaded.